Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunnitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dandavat pranams to all the assembled Vaishnavas and sincere seekers. So we are continuing with our reading and discussion of Sri Upadeśāmṛta. And you know what? Maybe it's good if we just review the verse itself. We had reached we're in the middle of this commentary by Srila Sridhar Maharaj. We're about halfway through, but maybe we can first just chant the verse again. And it's going through this, is discussing this very important principle for our devotional life, that of being cautious with observing the faults of others. And also, I finally remembered I just shared in our chat a link to the article which I'd mentioned before from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vaishnava Ninda, where he quite extensively, as I recall, is discussing what Vaishnava Ninda is, what constitutes criticism and offenses to Vaishnavas, when it is permissible, when it is appropriate to carefully discuss faults of others in the proper context, and when it is not appropriate. So it's very helpful. And as I said, I remember it being quite detailed. So this is the verse, and feel free to chant along. Verse 6 of Sri Upadeśāmṛta. Jishte swabhava janiter vapushascha dosher na prakritatvam miha bhakta janasya pashyat gangamba samna kalu budbuddha fena panker brahma drivatvam apagachati nira dharmai. Do not consider devotees in this world to be mundane as a result of observing faults produced by their nature or in their body. The water of the Ganges never loses its nature as liquid spirit because of bubbles, foam, and mud, all of which are natural in water. So the material plane and the spiritual plane, although we may observe material defects in a practitioner, that may not necessarily reflect their internal spiritual nature. The internal spiritual nature may be pure, and there may be some superficial faults in their covering. That's the principle in gist. So let's go back and pick up from where we left off. We left off where Srila Sridhar Maharaj was describing this as a trade secret of practicing devotion. That if he's making this particular point, that if we are too eager in observing and chewing on, he says, the faults of others, then it will come to us. Just like if you're chewing on some poisonous substance, you will be the one affected. So if we're contemplating too much the faults of others, then ultimately some reaction, it's residing in our mental plane, and ultimately some reaction must take place. And we ourselves will begin to develop that fault, So there are trade secrets everywhere, and this is a secret in the life of devotion. So we'll read that last part again. So as there are trade secrets, so this is a secret in devotional life, we must be aware of it, and we must be very careful about such practical difficulties on the path of our life. So we'll continue from there. And welcome Vishabhanavi and Antashesh and everyone else who's joined. A Vaishnava may be physically defective, lame, or blind, or they may have any other defects, but that does not affect their status in the Vaishnava world. They are independent of material things. The body connection and the mind connection also are drawn from this material world. Sankalpa and vikalpa, to want something and to not want something. These functions within us are called the mind. So these are the two main functions of the mind, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj discusses this more extensively in other places. It works in a binary way, like, dislike. There's no discrimination, right? Just like or dislike. The mind is part of this material world, and spiritual truth is avan manasa gochara, beyond the reach of mental speculation. Ananda, are you able to zoom in a little bit? Because even on my screen, it's quite small, and for anyone on a phone, oh, okay, it doesn't give you much space, huh, to zoom in. But that helps. That's helpful. Thank you. We have no concern for the body. We are completely separate from any bodily or physical interest. We are to be established in continuous conception of and identification with the soul's existence independent of this body. My goodness, that one sentence is just like a hammer to like 1,001 things in our life, right? That we may consider to be important, or that may call us or trouble us or attract us in different ways. We have no concern for the body. We are completely separate from any bodily or physical interest. We are to be established in continuous conception of and identification with the soul's existence independent of this body. And I'm reminded of the discussion between Shukadev and Parikshit Maharaj, right? And Parikshit Maharaj is on the brink of death. He's been cursed. He has like 7 days left to live, right? And there's this one phrase where Shukadev is telling him, this is to think that you're going to die. This is animal consciousness, right? And I think he uses the phrase Pashu Buddhi. I can't remember there's a phrase, there's a place where Srila Sridhar Maharaj is discussing this and he's quoting these lines, but there's one line saying like, this is animal consciousness. You must kill this. You must cut this animal consciousness, this conception that you're going to die. This is ignorance, actually, from the proper estimation of things. You are eternal. There's actually no question of birth, death, and all these things are ultimately relative concepts. But you are an eternal being. So what is the nature of the soul? What is the true need of the soul? How can we feed that need of the soul? These are the things that we are trying to absorb ourselves in. That is the Vaishnava conception, Atma Dharma, the soul's function. The contamination of the bodily conception should be absent there. Srimad Bhagavatam has condemned this in the strongest terms. Yasyatma buddhi kunape chidatuke swadi kala tradishu boma idyadi yatirta buddhi salile nakarhi chich janeshra bigeshu saeva gokara. One who thinks this body is oneself is a gokara, not only an ordinary ass, but a worthless ass that serves no purpose for human society and can only be used to carry fodder for animals. All consideration of purity is in the spiritual realm. One who thinks that it has any material connection is a fool, an ass who has only one purpose, satisfying other animals. There was a Vaishnava by the name of Vasudeva in Kormakshetra, just beyond Puri on the southern side. He was a leper. And what type of leper? He would collect the worms that fell to the ground from his body and place them back in his wounds because he feared the worms would die. Once Vasudeva found within himself that the Lord was coming, and he became very eager to have the darshan of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu came nearby and then went away. After he left, Vasudeva heard that a sadhu of extraordinarily capacity, oh, that's a typo, that a sadhu of extraordinary capacity had come and gone. Only a few minutes ago he had left. Vasudeva was disappointed and fell to the ground. Oh, Mahaprabhu came, but he did not give me darshan. I could not have a glimpse of the Lord. He came and went away, and I did not have the capacity to have his connection. Mahaprabhu went almost a mile away, but suddenly felt some attraction behind him. He ran back, found Vasudeva, and embraced him. Immediately, Vasudeva's leprosy was cured, and his whole body turned into a very beautiful figure. Srila Sanatana Goswami contracted sores all over his body because of contact with bad water in the jungle. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's highlighting this fact, right? That someone may have some, apparently, degraded condition of life. They may look like a very lowly person, someone you might avoid if you see them on the street, right? But you don't know what is in their heart. You don't know what their connection is. And the same goes for people we may, practitioners that we may know in our daily lives, right? They may have different superficial qualities which are unattractive in different ways, whether subtle or gross, whether bodily defects or personality defects or whatever. But we have to remember, that what is inside is something else. And, I'm also reminded of one case, one disciple of Srila Gurudev, living in the vicinity of Srila Govinda Maharaj, especially in retrospect, more and more I feel like it was like having the association of Srila Govinda Maharaj was like hearing it, it was like a living representation of what you hear of Chaitanya Leela, right? What we're hearing about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was like the pages came to life, being in the company of Srila Govinda Maharaj. I don't think that was exactly how I thought of it at that time. I was so young, but but in reflection, and having like now become more, little more familiar with Mahaprabhu's pastimes, like there are so many cases in the pastimes of Srila Govinda Maharaj where you feel, oh, this is just like this pastime, that pastime with Mahaprabhu. But there was one man. This was, early on, before I went to live in India. This took place, I think, like mid-90s or something. But I heard about it from Shuddha Prabhu. He wrote an article about it, actually. And there was this one man, as I recall, he used to, when you're in India, you'll often see some people, they just sit, I mean, all the time, everywhere you see it, they just sit by the side of the road and they might just be selling one or two things, right? There might be someone who just sells locks. They just take a little patch on the ground somewhere off the street. They're selling locks, or they might be selling apples, or they might be selling guavas, or I saw here the other day something which is, oh yeah, this one surprised me, little suitcases, just someone sitting by the side of the road selling suitcases, And so this man, I believe, was potatoes. He had a cigarette habit. He used to smoke so many cigarettes every day. Very, very simple, very poor man. He came in connection with Srila Govinda Maharaj. His heart was captured by him, and he ended up requesting initiation. Srila Gurudev bestowed that upon him. He gave up his cigarette habit, in line with the principles, regulative principles. And we hear that every day, every morning, he would go to Srila Govinda Maharaj, and the exact amount of money that he used to spend on cigarettes, he would give to Srila Gurudev. every day he used to do that. And Srila Shava Prabhu, he would spend 6 months at a time with Gurudev. So he would watch this, he watched this go on day by day. And then Gurudev remarked one day, he has the type of devotion that I am afraid of. He has the type of devotion that I am afraid of. He is such a great soul. A simple man, just coming in quietly, and what could it be? 10 rupees, a few rupees, like nothing, a few cents in Western currency, US currency. And then there was he had some sudden illness, and he ended up dying, actually fairly young. He wasn't that old. And Gurudev spoke so highly of him. This is Srila Govinda Maharaj, Paramahamsa, right? Paramahamsa Vaishnava. Seeing, and this is like the kind of person you might just pass on the street and not give them a second glance, right? As I said, here in India, all these sellers sitting on the road selling this, that, you don't give them a second glance for the most part. But Srila Govinda Maharaj is, with his Paramahamsa vision, he's looking past, seeing what's in the heart, and seeing what wealth they may have. It's really a sobering reflection, right? How cautious and careful, how aware, we must try to be in our estimation of others, because we don't know who they are. It's something Gurudev used to say quite often, actually, like, we don't know who's a Vaishnava. We don't know. We don't know. And if we have any doubt, we will still give them respect, maybe from a distance, but we will still give them respect. We will be very careful. We'll be very, very cautious. And the higher Vaishnavas, they're always navigating the environment in a very careful and a very sensitive way. This morning, some of you may have seen, I posted some pictures. We had this project in Navadvip of restoring Gurudev's Bhajan Kutir, where he stayed for 15 years. But it's just so extraordinary to see what was Srila Gurudev's style, because he didn't like to knock anything down. He didn't like to cut any tree. He didn't like anything to be sold either. Like, if anyone would, particularly places that had once been temples or ashrams, he didn't like to sell. Gurudev was all about preserving. So he would literally build around, like he had this small little hut, little room basically that he lived in. He didn't want to knock that down. So he built around it. When it came time to build Srila Sridhar Maharaj's memorial, he built around it. When he built the Prasadam hall, there are some coconut trees. Any other person will just cut them down. Oh, they're in the way. Like, how much trouble did that give the builders? That they were told they have to build around the trees. I think it's 4 trees, 4 or 5 trees, long trees, and it's on 2 levels that they've been built around. It's like in 2 places. It's like a 3-level building. So in 2 places they've had to like build around that. It would have caused them a lot of trouble. 4 big trees. That just sounds silly to your average person. But Srila Govinda Maharaj, he's seeing consciousness there. He's not seeing, a wooden block that's in my way, but he's seeing particles of consciousness. He's sensitive. Trees, according to the scriptures, they're highly conscious beings. Right. And Gurudev would always become upset if anyone would cut a tree down or harm a tree in any way. like if devotees were there was some persons who like were sweeping up leaves in the mat and they made a pile under a tree and they're burning all the dry leaves and some of that fire is burning the tree. Gurudev's concerned about that. He was very upset once when one manager cut some trees down in one of our temples. I won't say where or who, and Gurudev was very upset. He said he will have to suffer for that. He will have to suffer for that. So it's extraordinary to have that type of opportunity to live in the vicinity of someone with such high level of consciousness, such high level of awareness. And then you look at yourself and think, oh, I'm like a bull in a china shop, right? Like awkward, clumsy person, just breaking things, knocking things over, things that we're not even aware of. That's the difference, right? If we go into a china shop, do people know, like, does the young generation know what that is? China? Maybe not, huh? Maybe it's too British. I'm not sure. But with that I mean like clay pots and cups. We might go into a place and just break things. But here we're dealing with subtle things we can't even see. Okay, thank you, Rishabhan. Well, maybe that's because you're an intelligent young person. But anyway. So yeah, so being it's a class thing in the US, Madhurya Leela says. Okay. So yeah, being in the company of Srila Govinda Maharaj, it really just would open your eyes, like, oh, what an awkward, clumsy person I am. There's such a subtle and fine plane above me. Let me just try to be quiet and try to learn something, let me try to move more softly, more gently. So there is such a plane, right, of such sensitivity, such awareness, such care for every entity in the environment, every particle in the environment. Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentions in Vrindavan, not even a particle of soil is neglected. Here, what to speak of a particle of soil? So many, humans are mistreated, neglected, abused in different ways. But there, not even the dust is neglected. Even the dust, not just not neglected, but cared for and loved to the utmost degree. Such a plane exists. And sometimes we may be fortunate to come across someone who exhibits that type of quality, as we did in Srila Govinda. But I digress. We'll continue here. So now Srila Sridhar Maharaj is giving another example of Sanatana Goswami. This is it. I'm struggling a little bit because this text, it is collected from different places, and I do find that it doesn't always flow so well, but that's okay. Yeah, I personally, I'd like to just read like a straight lecture, like this is Srila Sridhar Maharaj's flow, this is Srila Govinda Maharaj's flow, but of course this also has its place. Okay. Srila Sanatana Goswami contracted sores all over his body because of contact with bad water in the jungle when he was returning from Vrindavan to Puri. Mahaprabhu used to welcome him by embracing him, but Sanatana would try to withdraw. He objected, "Don't touch me. This is the body of a sinful man." The sores were oozing and emitting a bad odor, but Mahaprabhu embraced him forcibly. Sanatana had decided, I shall either leave this place or I shall invite death by falling under the wheel of the cart of Lord Jagannath. This is just around the time of the Ratha Yatra festival, right? So Jagannath's like about to come out. So Sanatan's feeling so bad about this, he actually decides to commit suicide. But as the Lord in the heart of all, Mahaprabhu knew Sanatan's mind. He chastised him and embraced him forcibly. All the sores disappeared, and Sanatan's body immediately became like gold. Mahaprabhu said, Sanatan, you are a Vaishnava. Your body is not defected. The Prakrita Deha Tomar, Prakrita Kabunoi. Mahaprabhu is testing me. I'm a sannyasi, and he is examining whether there is any partiality in my dealings with the Vaishnava, simply because of his externally having so many sores. Krishna is examining whether I will shrink from the association of such a Vaishnava and cast him aside. But your body is already pure, and only for the purpose of testing the public, Krishna has created this. If I cannot see this, I will have failed his test and will have been deceived by Krishna. It is a mere show. It is nothing. Your body is pure because you are a Vaishnava, a devotee of Krishna. This impurity is only an appearance in order to serve Krishna's divine purpose. Wherever there is Vaishnavata, true saintly devotedness, there can never be any contamination. Only to test my devotion has Krishna sent you to me in this condition. So Mahaprabhu embraced him and demonstrated that he was absolutely pure. When Sanatana Goswami came to Benares and inquired about Mahaprabhu, he came to know that the Lord was in the house of the physician Chandrasekhar. After taking a peek, Sanatan passed by the front of the house and took his seat on the other side. Mahaprabhu had a peep and could recognize Sanatan in his poor dress, but Sanatan could not venture to enter the house. He came to see Mahaprabhu, but he was so humble that he couldn't enter directly. This is a very wonderful section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Sanatana Goswami has finally been able to escape from his government service. It's probably one of, if not the most dramatic section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He has, a real jailbreak, bribing guards. It's like really like something out of a Hollywood film. It's quite extraordinary. And then he narrowly escapes a death trap, a scheme to rob him and kill him, and finally he reaches the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu after all these harrowing escapades, and then he finds where the residence where Mahaprabhu is staying. But he's, Rupa and Sanatan, they really win the prize for humility. They're so humble sometimes, it's painful. Mahaprabhu himself expresses that at times. So he finally finds Mahaprabhu right after all this trouble and danger he's been through. But then he's feeling shy to go in, partly because of his, he's very dirty. He's literally a government fugitive. He's got the torn cloth and covered in dirt and who knows what, and it's partly for that reason, and partly just his natural humble nature, right? So he just sits outside. He's just waiting, sitting outside, and then Mahaprabhu calls for him through Chandrasekhar. So we can go down. Here we are. So he simply passed by the gate and sat on the other side. Mahaprabhu said to Chandrasekhar, "There is a sadhu outside the door. Please call him here." Chandrasekhar went out and cast his glance to this side and that, but he did not see any sadhu. Because, remember Sanatan, this is another thing. He was working so closely with the Muslim government. He's dressing like a Muslim. He has the beard, and so he looks like a Muslim fakir, they say, like, what is a fakir? Like a beggar slash sadhu type of person, I believe. So he comes back and tells Mahaprabhu, "There's no sadhu, right? Is anyone there?" "Yes, a bearded dervish, perhaps a Muslim fakir, seems to be sitting outside. Please call him here." Prabhu Tomai Bolai Aisa Daravesh Shuni Anande Sanatan Kodila Pravesh. Chandrasekhar went out and said, "My Lord is calling for you. Come in, you fortunate fakir." Very highly pleased, Sanatan entered and fell flat on the ground. Mahaprabhu came down from the veranda to welcome Sanatan. He came to embrace him, but Sanatan moved back. "No, no, no, don't touch me. I am so mean. I am so low. I am untouchable. Please don't touch me, my Lord." Prabhu kohe Thomas Sparshi Atma Pabijite Bhakti Bole Para Tumi Brahmanda Shodite. This answer then came from the lips of Mahaprabhu. "No, no, Sanatan. You want to hide yourself from me? I will touch you for my own purification. You have such a type of devotion in your hearts that you can purify not only me, but the whole of the world. You can purify the whole solar system, the whole universe. Such devotion is in your heart, Sanatan. So for my selfish purpose, I want to touch and welcome you." In this way, Mahaprabhu forcibly embraced him. Yeah, it's very, very beautiful. There's a painting, or even several paintings that have been made depicting this scene, because it's such a beautiful moment, outstandingly beautiful moment in Mahaprabhu's pastime. Sanatan's been waiting for this moment for years, actually. That's another element here. He's been waiting. He's been trying to get free from his entanglement in the government service for years. And now he's just had this very dramatic escape. He's finally reached the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, and he's feeling so unfit, physically and mentally, and to be touched by Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu's casting all those concerns aside and embracing him. And there's another line there where Mahaprabhu, this first meeting that they have, where Mahaprabhu is saying, like, to have connection with you is the fulfillment of all the senses. And he's quoting one verse from Bhagavatam, and then he's saying, and then Kaviraj Goswami renders that in Bengali very sweetly. Toma Sparshi, Toma Deki, Tava Tomar Gum, to see you, right? To touch you, to speak your glories. This is the fulfillment. This is the true fulfillment. This is the perfection of our senses. This is what the senses are for. Our tongue is meant to glorify the Vaishnavas. Our sense of hearing is to hear the glories of the Vaishnavas. Oh, thank you very much, Ananda Krishna. This is one of the iconic paintings depicting this moment. Chandrasekhar is meanwhile like, huh? What's going on? He's like this random Muslim guy who just shows up, and he's so dirty, and Mahaprabhu's just embracing her like he's his dearest friend. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. So the sense of sight, to see the Vaishnavas, to have darshan, the Lord, that's the perfection of the sense of sight. To touch the Vaishnava, to embrace the Vaishnava, to serve the Vaishnava, that's the perfection of the sense of touch. Right? This is what the senses are truly meant to be for. So very, very beautiful description in Chaitanya Charitamrita of this exchange. It's a real highlight. Very wonderful. And highlighting there are a few key moments in Chaitanya Charitamrita too, which are particularly emphasizing Mahaprabhu's love for his devotees, his care, his compassion, his love for them. And this is one of them. Right? There's another one, another moment like this that's very special when Mahaprabhu delivers a Mog, right? A Mogam, the son of Sarvabhauma. Of course, it's different in the sense that Sanatan is an eternal associate, very exalted Vaishnava. In the case of Amog, it's a little different in the sense that he had been offensive. Mahaprabhu's forgiving him, but also it's another example of Mahaprabhu's deep love, right, for his devotees and those who are related to his devotees also. Okay, we can go back to the text. Krishna showed another example of honoring his devotee in Mahabharata when the Rajasuya Yagya of Maharaj Yudhisthira was finished. Krishna foretold when the sacrifice is finished, the bell will ring automatically. Then you will know that the sacrifice has been completed. Everything was finished. So this was a grand sacrifice. I think it was like commemorating Yudhisthira Maharaj's, position as the emperor, the great emperor, and so many people are paying tribute to him. I'm sure someone here can give a better description of the background than me, but it's the general idea. So many great dignitaries are present. And there's this special yagya, special fire sacrifice that takes place, and all the persons in attendance are served prasad very nicely. And Krishna tells this, right, that when everything's truly complete, this bell is going to ring. So everything's been completed, but the bell hasn't rung. So everything was finished, but the bell did not ring. Bhima said to Krishna, "You said that the bell will ring automatically. It has not rung, but the whole sacrifice is finished." "No, one thing is still remaining." "What is that?" "The Vaishnava Seva, the service to the Vaishnavas." "What are you saying? So many munis and rishis like Narada and Vyasadeva, as well as you yourself, have all been satisfied with good food. But you say that Vaishnava Seva has not been completed?" "Yes." "Where is the Vaishnava?" "Go to the outskirts of the town. There you'll find a man of the lowest caste. He does not go anywhere. He is satisfied taking the name of the Lord, going on in his own way. He does not care for the world and is somehow or other passing his time. He has complete devotion." Bhima and Arjuna went with a chariot to receive him and found an ordinary poor man of the lowest class. With folded palms, they came to take him to the palace, but he was perplexed. "So many big men have come in my cottage. What is the matter?" He was very panic-stricken. It was then explained to him, "We have come for you. You must come and take some food." Then what could he do? He could not avoid it. He had to come. Draupadi cooked in various ways many palatable things. she thought, Vaishnava Seva has not been done. So many rishis and munis and even Lord Krishna have been fed, but the Vaishnava Seva is not complete. With all her might, she prepared various types of cooked foods. Then the man was given the food and he took it, but the bell did not ring. What is the matter? Bhima asked. It is finished, but the bell did not ring. Krishna said there must be some sort of offense in the Vaishnava Seva. That is why the bell did not ring. What do you say? Did you have any doubts about him? Did any of you have any ill thoughts of him? They asked one another if anyone had thought any evil about him, and at last Draupadi came to admit, I had something in my mind. This man is low-born. I prepared so many curries with the utmost kindness and skill, but the man put all the curries together and then ate them. He does not know how to eat properly because he comes from a very low caste. I had this in my mind. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this aspect of Indian culture, it's a real thing. I have direct experience, like higher level Brahminical persons, they take it very seriously, right? You eat foods in a specific order, you mix certain things together, you don't mix other things together. And I mean, I've personally experienced, even today, they can get upset about this, if you don't do it in the right order, right? Or if you mix things you're not meant to mix, So it's considered a more refined way, right, of eating. But then more simple-minded, low-class persons, they may just mix it together like khichdi, So Draupadi's a little offended, I made such a big effort preparing all these fine, high-class dishes, but this man doesn't appreciate them properly. He just jumbled them all together. Krishna said, here is some contempt against this Vaishnava. So the bell is not ringing. What could they do? They had no other way but to go to him again and bring him back. They went, and again he was fed. This time all waited with great respect as he took prasadam, and the bell rang with every morsel. This type of example is found. The nishkincham, the surrendered, do not want anything, no name, no fame, nothing of the kind. They are satisfied with anything and wholesale dedicated to the Lord. They may be found anywhere without any show of outer grandeur. No worldly grandeur is necessary for them. They have the richness of the heart. No knowledge, no education, no honor in caste, no high birth, no power, no gorgeousness, nothing. Krishna consciousness is so full, so sufficient, so absolute. A point of it contains everything, all grandeur and all education. Everything is there in service, self-dedication, sharanagati, surrender. That is what is necessary. You may fail to understand devotees, but they are all right. They must be thought to be sadhus, real honest persons, and nothing else. No obligation, no name, no fame, no attractive things which attract us. Nothing is necessary from them. They are self-sufficient, self-content. Contentment does not require anything. It can stand alone. Contentment, fulfillment, sufficiency. Krishna consciousness is so self-sufficient that it does not require anything, any paraphernalia to establish itself. It is a self-established thing without hankering for anything, grandeur or otherwise. Once, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a dream in which he was wandering in the sky, chanting the holy name. He came upon the court of Yamaraj, where Yamaraj himself was sitting with Brahma, Narad, and others, discussing a point from a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Api chatsura chado bhajate mamananya bhak sadar eva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa. The generally accepted meaning of this verse is, even if one commits the most abominable action, if one is an ananya bhak, exclusive devotee who worships me alone in devotional service, which is free from karma and jnana, he is to be considered saintly because his endeavors are completely on my behalf and his determination is fixed. Here Krishna says, whatever he has done, if he is exclusively given to myself, he should be considered as my devotee. Samyak vyavasito hi sa. And whatever he is doing is 100% right. But then the next passage says, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma. Very soon he will be a man of righteousness. He will become dharmatma, dutiful. As Yamaraj, Brahma, and Narad discussed this point, a question came up. Krishna says, Bhajate mam ananya bhak, one who is my exclusive devotee. The question arises, what is exclusive devotion or ananya bhajam? Krishna says, give up all other religious conceptions and surrender to me alone. Sarvadharmam prityaja mamekam charanam raja. Excuse me. That is exclusive devotion. But if one is practicing exclusive devotion, then one is already dharmatma, one is already righteous. How is it then that in the very next verse, Krishna says, soon he becomes dharmatma? How are we to adjust this? Krishna says, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvak shantim nigachati kunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashati. He soon becomes righteous, dharmatma, and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So this is quite a fine point, right? That has been made here, right? That these two verses, right? They're in chapter 9, right? Of Bhagavad Gita. And the first verse, Krishna is saying that, wait, I have Bhagavad Gita here. I'll just open that up so I have it in front of me. I don't get anything wrong. Here, yeah, it's verses 30 and 31 of chapter 9. So the first verse, verse 30, Apichaturachado, right? Krishna is saying, even if a very sinful person serves me with exclusive devotion, they should be considered saintly because their resolve is perfect. Then in the next verse, this one being mentioned, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma, he's saying that he will quickly become a person of purity, right? But then, these great souls, they are all known as Mahajans, right? Great exalted persons. They're pointing out that it's already been said in verse 30 that they are perfect, right? So then how can it be said in the next verse that they will become perfect? But it's already been established that internally they are pure. So where is the question of them becoming pure? This seems like a contradiction, right? So, and there are different levels of understanding this verse. That's another thing, right? Because this verse can refer to persons who are this can refer to, like at a higher level of interpretation, this verse can refer to very great souls who are actually fully pure, but externally it may appear that they are not, right? If we take the example of the Braja Gopis, right? Apparently they are, you know, they have an illegal relationship with Krishna, right? But that is all like a posing. That is all a play. There's no question of them cheating or being sinful in any way. That's just an apparent thing, right? And in his commentary, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gives the example to bring it to a more human level. You know, a servant, in order to stop a thief, may run into the inner quarters of the palace where normally they're not allowed to enter in order to protect the king and his possessions and so on. It looks like he's breaking the law, but he's not, right? So this is one higher interpretation of this verse. You're seeing something impure, but it's actually not. Actually, they're fully pure. But then on a lower, more human level, the verse can also be understood to be saying, be referring to persons who are going through a process of purification, that they do have some material faults, but they will soon be purified, right? The verse may also be understood in that way. And it's important to make that distinction because otherwise things can get very weird, right? Then you say things are perfect that are not perfect. You say a devotee is doing something that is good when it's actually not good, right? This is where weird cult stuff can start to come in, right? Which we don't want. So here, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is speaking at in connection with the higher level of interpretation, right? That actually that devotee you're looking at, they're pure through and through. It is your vision that is wrong, right? Your understanding that is wrong. Okay, so going back here, right? So, and this incident that takes place, one nice aspect of it is that it's glorifying Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So all these great Mahajans, right? Lord Brahma, the creator, Narad, the wandering sage, Yamaraj, the Lord of death and Lord of the underworld, they're all confused on this point. Who comes along to their rescue? Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So who's Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Right? Srila Gurudev, he spoke of this incident in that way at one time. So this is the general meaning of this verse. Krishna tells Arjuna, he soon becomes Dharmatma. My devotee is never ruined. Go and declare this to the public. Krishna says that after the devotee became Ananya Bhak, that is, he gave up all sorts of duties and surrendered to him, then again he will be a dutiful man. As Brahma, Narad, and Yamaraj discussed this point, they saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur walking in the sky and taking the holy name. Then one of them suggested, there is a pure devotee. He should be able to give the real meaning. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur was invited in their midst and was asked, how should we adjust these points? Krishna has said that this person is an exclusive devotee. Krishna has said that this person is an exclusive devotee, that he has renounced all sorts of duties and surrendered to Krishna. And yet in no time it will be seen that he is very dutiful. How can we understand this? Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that he quickly becomes righteous refers not to the exclusive devotee, but to one who considers the exclusive devotee pure in all circumstances. So saying that that one who can appreciate this, if one who can appreciate the purity of a pure devotee, although apparently they may have some fault, then that person who has that vision, they will become purified. Okay? They will become purified. Just as the opposite is also true, right? That we discussed earlier. If we are chewing on the faults of the Vaishnavas, we will become poison. But the opposite's also true. If we are appreciating the purity of the Vaishnava, we're appreciating the Vaishnavata, the Vaishnava quality of the Vaishnava, then we will be uplifted by that. We will become purified ourselves. So then Krishna is telling Arjuna, you go and declare this, and you will soon become great also. If you can appreciate the great qualities of the Vaishnavas, then you will also develop those qualities. You will become purified and uplifted by that. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that he quickly becomes righteous refers not to the exclusive devotee, but to one who considers the exclusive devotee pure in all circumstances. Even if he performs some abominable act, he is really a sadhu, a saint. One who can think of an exclusive devotee in that way will soon become dharmatma. They will become righteous. This was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation. In this way, in my commentary on Bhagavad Gita, I have followed Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation. I also saw that it was redundant to say that an Ananya Bhak devotee becomes Dharmatma. Krishna says that an exclusive devotee, so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's given this, right? I don't think you find this in any explanation of Bhagavad Gita. And I mean, not just that I think, but we can pretty much say that as a fact, that Srila Sridhar Maharaj is the only person who has revealed this. There may be some hints in some of the Vaishnava acharyas, but not at all what Srila Sridhar Maharaj has given. And we hear even that Srila Sridhar Maharaj's godbrothers we hear Jajavar Maharaj in particular, he tried to stop Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He was concerned, like, this is dangerous. If you put this out there, people will take this as a license that, oh, we can do as we like. We are Ananya Bhak. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it's okay. So it is something to be, but and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, appreciated that concern, but he felt ultimately someone has to give this, the truth should not be held back because of some ignorant people or insincere persons, that the truth must still be spoken for those who can appreciate it. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj made that decision. So in this way, in my commentary on Bhagavad Gita, I have followed Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation. I also saw that it was redundant to say that in Ananya, or as it's been put here, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's actually given two translations, right, showing the different ways in which this verse can be interpreted. One, which is the more human, lower level way of understanding, that devotee will become purified, and then the finer, for higher level application, that one who can appreciate the purity of the Vaishnava despite their external apparent defect, they will be purified. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj has actually given both of these translations, explanations, that one who declares this to the world. So this is another thing, this is a nice point too, that Krishna appreciates one who makes a stand for the truth. That if we have that courage, right, to stand for truth, we will be graced, we will be blessed. And I also remember the example of Kaviraj Goswami, right, that his brother is offensive. This is in the very beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Kaviraj Goswami is telling his own story, right? This is Adi Lila chapter 5. Kaviraj Goswami is telling his own story, in the background to how Charitamrita came out, and it starts because of this incident when his brother is disrespectful to Nityananda Prabhu, and Kaviraj Goswami is not silent about that. Because this is another thing, like if we see something wrong and we don't make a stand, if we have a position, if we have a place to say something or do something, we stay silent, right? Even like in ordinary law, right? You become complicit, right? If you know that someone has done something wrong and you haven't done anything about it, you haven't said anything about it, you're also implicated. Even if you didn't directly participate, but you heard that or you saw that and you allowed that to go on, you didn't object to that, then you also become accountable. You also hold some responsibility. And so Kaviraj Goswami, he's not silent, he chastises his brother about that, and Kaviraj Goswami mentions that because he had like made a stand, then Nityananda became pleased with him, that he took a stand for the truth. And then Nityananda appeared to him in his dream that night, blessing him in the most wonderful way, you know, giving him the most extraordinary darshan, and tells him to go to Vrindavan, And then that's how everything starts and how he comes to write the greatest theological literature that's ever seen the light of day, in the words of our Param Gurudev. So here similarly, right, Krishna is saying that if you can declare the glories of my Vaishnava, the glories of my devotee, if you have that courage, then you will be blessed. You will be uplifted by that. I think we're just about running out of time. We have some comments in our chat from Madhurya Leela. Better to speak truth and require discernment to develop than to conceal truth, which can be understood if only one develops a small appreciation of nuance. Yeah, comes back to nuance. If one wants to have any understanding of what Treatise in Nisarg Samat is and what it means to try and serve Srila Sridhar Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj, that word is very important, an ability to appreciate nuance, right? We are entering the school of nuance. And perfection is a process. Very nice. Very nice comments from Madhurya Leela. Well, we'll just finish this paragraph. Is it much longer, Ananta Krishna?
I believe so. This
Okay.
commentary is quite long.
Okay. Okay, we can stop there. And I don't want to go too late. I know some people have tight schedules. So we'll stop there. Jai Shri Upadeśāmṛta ki Jai. Does anyone want to end with any reflection or comment or anything before we close for today? Okay.
Dhanavad Vishaka, I just want to add, forgive me, Srila Gurudev in chapter 11 of Revealed Truth, he goes over these verses, this verse from Sri Upadeśāmṛta and also the Ananya Bhak, and he goes through all of that. I know it can be kind of hard to swallow, this idea, but anyway, he goes through it, in the way that Gurudev does. So it's in chapter 11 in Revealed Truth, if anyone's interested in more of a deep dive into that and hear from Srila Gurudev. I just wanted to share that. Dandavats to all.
Yes. Yeah, there's an extensive section in Revealed Truth where Srila Gurudev is discussing this point. Thanks for bringing that up, Prabhu. And yes, it is something that can be hard to swallow. And I'm not sure if you were here last week or not, but we were discussing that point. It's and I think I mentioned that time I've witnessed this tear communities apart within our own mission, because there are those who go very strong on one side, others who are very strong on the other side. Maybe not many who are taking more of a middle path, and it can really destroy, faith, can destroy relationships and Krishna consciousness, and it's something we'll all be tested on, you know. And I think also, and I appreciate in your expression, Prabhu, your honesty, because we can't force ourselves. We can't pretend that we're on such a high level, right? We can be honest and say, I'm struggling with this, right? But ultimately, we're deferring to the higher vision of sadhu and shastra, right? So even if we may struggle with certain conceptions, we will defer to those who have higher vision, right? And also, one thing I appreciated about Srila Gurudev was that he was very real, and he didn't, if something was wrong, he would say that something was wrong, right? Because there is this kind of strange cult-like tendency to like whitewash too much over things. And last week, the verse Tat Tenu Kampam was brought up, right? And I do feel that sometimes that verse is used inappropriately. Like Tat Tenu Kampam is not a license to say everything is divine and everything's good, right? Sometimes we are meant to speak up and say, no, this is wrong, right? I mean, Srila Govinda Maharaj would sometimes beat the brahmacharis in his mat, like if we're just straight up about this, like there's no, everything's good and everything's the grace of the Lord. No, it is our duty to assert the Lord's will in this Mayic illusory environment, right? That is also our duty. Sometimes it's just a type of spiritual laziness that we just whitewash things with, it's all good, right? No, we have a duty to act on behalf of the Lord's will in this world, which is pervaded by that which is not the Lord's will, right? So, all of these things, they have to be understood and applied very carefully, right? Very carefully. And we don't have to, forcefully swallow everything as being perfect and good when it's not, right? And, in a very simple sense, what we can take away is that we'll be careful in our dealings and understanding of other Vaishnavas, right? That we don't know always who's on a higher level, who's on a lower level, but we give some level of respect, right, to all. And, in some cases, we may keep a very great distance, from the association of certain Vaishnavas. But in some space of our mind, we will keep some degree of respect, that we don't know internally what their relationship is. But I'll also tell my kids not to associate with that person, like, we need to be real and practical about all these things, No, that's something every great Vaishnava we've seen, they all have different moods, and Srila Govinda Maharaj had one particular mood, which I feel is very relevant for the modern age, like he didn't like that devotees would live in an isolated way, communities that are completely divorced from the outside world. He directly told my mother, like your children should, he advised her, like your children should learn how to move in the world, read the newspaper. At one point she talked about taking us all out of, we were going to a really good school, and my mother talked about taking us out of school, and so we would live close to the temple. and just become like these raw Hare Krishna devotees. Guru said no, like they're going to a good school, don't disturb them, So, he wanted us to become practitioners who know how to move in the world, know how to talk, to ordinary people. He wasn't into like weird, extreme, culty expressions of Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, let's keep it real. And my battery is about to die, so I'm in India, so the plugs are always in like the funniest places. So it's sometimes difficult to plug in. All right. Well, Dandavat, one of your daughters is there. What is your name? I've forgotten. I'm sorry.
Nadia Lila.
Nadia Leela.
Nadia Leela. Jai. Dandavat, Nadia Leela. Nice to see you. Okay. Jai Shri Guru Dev, Jai Param Guru Dev, Jai Vaishnava Vrinda, Jai Shri Upadeśāmṛta. Haribo, wish you all an inspired weekend. Thank you all.
That was Vishakha. Thank you.
Dandavat, Dandavat.